I was really looking forward to Molly and the Skywalkerz Two Daddies because recently, yesterday I think, I watched Molly and the Skywalkerz Happily Ever After and I thought it was really strong. So I decided to watch Two Daddies and I have to say it's pretty brilliant as well. This is a 1989 animated film. It's about 55 minutes and this is directed by Bill Melendez and Stephen Melendez with a story by Ron Friedman, Malcolm Marmotstein, and Linda Balahoutis. And I apologise if I mispronounced any of those names. And we have a brilliant voice cast, most of the cast from the previous film, including Carrie Fisher, Henry Winkler, Rhea Perlman, Danny DeVito. We also have Christina Lange as Molly this time, and Richard Masur as Michael Stevens. And this one takes place about a year after the first film. We established this quite early on. And Molly says to her mother that she's finally used to them being alone. Because in the first film, I guess this is a spoiler for the first film, but I won't spoil this film. If I do want to give any spoiler details, I'll wait until the end and give a spoiler warning, but this will spoil the first film. In the first film, Molly learns at the beginning that her parents are getting a divorce, and the film is all about her trying to come to terms with that. At the beginning of this film, we establish that it's been a year and she tells her mother that she's finally getting used to them being just the two of them. She still visits her father on weekends, but day to day she's getting used to just being her and her mother. And her mother doesn't really respond very well to this. She doesn't respond very happily or enthusiastically. And we quickly learn why this is the case. And this is because she has started to date somebody. She started to see somebody called Michael, who is a really likable character. But Molly doesn't think so. And Molly begins to worry that he's trying to take her mother away from her because whenever they have date nights, Molly is invited along a lot of the time. She isn't included in a lot of their activities. But often those activities will fall on mother-daughter nights, where they would specifically carve out that time to spend together, but some of that time is now being used for her mother to spend with Michael. And that does seem a little tactless, but at the same time, Molly is so used to having just her mother that I feel like any time spent with Michael would be too much time in Molly's eyes. And the film is all about her having to come to terms with the fact that her mother is going to date other people and it probably won't be just Molly and her mother forever. And I think there are some really great messages in this, as is the case with the first film. Whether you're the parent or the child, there are some really strong takeaways from this. Obviously, for the most part, it is aimed at people like Molly, who are perhaps the child of a parent who has started to date somebody else. We see a whole range of emotions from Molly, mostly very negative emotions that will be difficult to deal with. And I think there are a lot of great messages in this about the fact that Michael isn't there to replace her father. He's not there to steal her mother away from her, and that he just wants to be her friend. He's not trying to replace anybody. And we have some great takeaways, if you're the parent, on perhaps how best to handle this situation. Obviously, that's going to be different for each child. Not every child will appreciate things being handled in the same way, but I do think that the way Molly's mother approached this is generally pretty good. I feel like she was maybe moving things a little too quickly. I don't know how quickly after leaving her husband she started to date Michael, but it does seem like things are moving quite fast. But that aside, I think everything was handled really well, and her father handled things perfectly. There were times where Molly was telling her father how her mother would cuddle Michael and kiss him, and they were all lovey-dovey, and depending on how her father feels about her mother still, that could be quite painful to listen to, but he never showed any signs of that in front of Molly. And Michael was brilliant, absolutely fantastic. I think he handled everything in the best way possible. So whether you're Molly or the parent, I think that there are some really great aspects of this film. With regards to the narrative itself, there's a lot going on. We have different scenes. We have Molly up in the treehouse with the Skywalkerz, who are the other children she knows. We have different activities that she does with Michael and her mother to keep things fresh and exciting. So there's a lot going on. It's not just 55 minutes of Molly whinging about her mother dating somebody. There's a lot of substance to the narrative. And we have a really nice animation style as well. And of course, the amazing voice cast. So needless to say, Molly and the Skywalkerz, two daddies, ticks every single box. It is pretty brilliant. If you've seen the first film and you liked it, I thoroughly recommend this. If you haven't seen the first film, you don't technically need to have seen it to watch this one. If you are perhaps interested in a film that deals with a child whose mother is dating somebody else, then maybe you could watch this without watching the first film. But I do recommend both of them. And I thought they were pretty great. It's a shame there are only 2 films in the Molly and the Skywalkerz series, as I would have loved to have seen what else they were exploring and other emotions that Molly had. And just off the top of my head, I guess one of them could be a new baby in the family. It might be a bit repetitive, but also her father dating somebody else. I think that one would be handled quite differently because she only sees her father on weekends, mostly. So if her father started to date somebody, it would be like every time she's with her father, the future step-parent would be there as well. So that could have been an interesting one, but maybe a little too similar to this one. It's pointless speculating. There are only 2 of them. I would like them to have done more. But nevertheless, Molly and the Skywalkerz, 2 daddies, is pretty fantastic, and I'm very happy to recommend it.